everybody, it's Rebecca here at Wine Mermaids, and it's time for my June wrap-up, where I talk about all the books that I read over the past month. It's actually quite a decent amount. I think it's my largest amount yet this year. So, holla, holla. I read a total of 9 books this month, which I am really proud of because, yeah, partially it's probably because I didn't have school, which means I didn't have work, which means I got to like spend all day at home reading on a lot of days because if I go out, I spend money. So if I stay in, then I read and play Lego Jurassic World and read some more. So 9 books. So since there's 9 books, we should get going, right? Let's dive right on in. The first book I read this month was Someday, Someday Maybe by Lauren Graham. And yes, it is that Lauren Graham. This book is basically about a girl named Franny it's in the mid-90s and she moves to New York to try to become a famous actress, or just a successful actress, not necessarily a famous one. And so it's kind of her story and her struggle. She has a set date of when she has to have made progress, significant progress by, and that date is approaching very fast. And so she's worried, and it's just her story of going on different jobs and meeting different people. It's chick lit, there's a love triangle, but you know what? It's fun chick lit. It's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, and it reminded me a lot of my own story of when I moved to LA, and so I could relate to it in a lot of different ways. And then I really love the fact that Franny's Filofax is a big part of her life, as it was for most people in the 90s, and so there are actual like pages of her Filofaxes, and then there's like beginning of the chapters has like answer machine messages that are left for her, and so it's a really cute way of telling the story, and I really enjoyed it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. The next book I read, I already sort of mentioned last week, and that is I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai, and this book is about this girl, Malala, who lived in Pakistan, and she fought for her education because women weren't allowed to go to school at a certain time when the Taliban rose to power, and so she stood up for education and then was shot by the Taliban. And it says that right on the cover, so it's not like I'm not spoiling anything for you. And it's her story of how that all came to go. It tells you in the very beginning, this is what happened. But then it goes back into all the backstory about Pakistan, which I didn't know. And it goes into the rise of the Taliban and how they came to power and all the effects and the changes it had on her town of Swat in Pakistan and Pakistan itself, and the Muslim community and culture. And it was really eye-opening, and I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars, my only 5-star read for this month. The next book I read was Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sanez. I hope I said that right. And this is the story of a boy named Aristotle, or Ari, who is basically, it's a coming-of-age novel, and it's like the late 80s. It takes place in 1987. I remember that because that's the year I was born. And he is basically, it's just his struggles with his family and growing up and realizing who he is and his identity and his unlikely friendship with Dante. And it's a really beautiful story of Hispanic American origin. And I listened to the audiobook for this, which was really fantastic. It's a beautiful story. I really liked it. But I did have some problems with it, so I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but I do recommend it. It's a really good contemporary novel, and it did win a lot of awards. I just found some of the issues with it that kind of brought it down a little bit to me for 3, but I still really liked it. The next book I read, I got from NetGalley as an advanced reader copy, and it is Everything Everything by Nicola Yoon, and this book is coming out at the end of this year, I think in October. And I'll probably do a full review as we get closer to that date if you would like one. But basically it's the story of a girl who can't leave her house and she falls in love with the boy next door. Well, how do you fall in love with the boy next door if you can't leave your house, right? What do you do? How do you go on dates? And so it kind of explores that, and it's a really interesting concept. It's a really fast-paced read. I read it in it took me 3 days, but I split it up. Like, I read about half of it in about 3 hours, and then if I had to go to bed, and I probably would have finished it that night if I just had the time to do it, and I just didn't get around to reading it till a little bit later. So it's very fast-paced. There are some really great ways of storytelling. Like there are email conversations and little like mini short chapters of like reviews for her, and you got to get into her mind a little bit more. But I did have some major problems with the ending, and so it only gave it 2 out of 5 stars. The next book I read was Longbourn by Joe Baker. I did a buddy read with this with Morgan from Little Word Weaver, which was really fun. We were on Twitter chatting back and forth. And I have a physical copy of it, but I lent it to my sister, who also really likes Pride and Prejudice, so I don't have it right now. But that book is basically about the story of the maids and the housekeeper and the house people, servants, who work in Longbourn, which is the house of the Bennets from Pride and Prejudice. So it's basically Pride and Prejudice with Downton Abbey kind of smushed together. And it kind of focuses on on Sarah, who's one of the maids, and her story. And you know, there's like things of Pride and Prejudice happening, like you have Elizabeth meeting Darcy, and you have, you know, the Bingley footman coming over and whatnot. But it kind of goes more into depth into other areas, and there's a lot of detail about how hard it was to clean things back then. And so ultimately I only gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I really liked the concept, and I really enjoyed kind of reading that, but there were a lot of things that really brought it down for me that I just did not like. So I did only give it 2 out of 5 stars. If you've been following me for a while, then you know that this year I am doing something called the Year of Gaiman, where I read one Neil Gaiman book every month for the entire course of the year, except for this month of July, because I'm doing a Harry Potter reread. So if you follow me on Twitter, which is @YMermaids, then you will see me talking about that. But right now, so in June, I finished out the Interworld trilogy with Eternity's Wheel, the 3rd book in the trilogy by Neil Gaiman, Michael Reeves, and Mallory Reeves, aka story by Neil Gaiman, but it was actually written by Michael and Mallory Reeves, so it's not actually a Neil Gaiman book, which I didn't find out till I was reading the 2nd one. But basically, this finishes out the story of Joey Harker, who is a boy who basically can walk between dimensions and worlds, like different worlds and earths and things like that. And there's like some evil, the binary and hex, which are like the magic world, or the magic strong people, and then the like scientifically strong people have come together to basically wipe out all the worlds. And so it's kind of the final battle in that story, and it was okay. It's fun, it's easy to read, it's, you know, it's a little bit more middle grade than YA, but, you know, whatever. It's a nice ending to the story, and I think I've given 3 stars to all of the books in this series, and that's kind of where this one falls as well. It's not my favorite, but it was enjoyable, and if you're into like sci-fi, fantasy, or like YA sci-fi, or you want to kind of get into it, it's not a bad trilogy to do that with, but don't expect Neil Gaiman, because he leaves after the 1st book. The next book I read, I kind of read along with Trina from Between Chapters. We pretty much started it like a day or 2 apart and finished it a day or 2 apart, so it was an unofficial buddy read, and that is The Duff by Cody Keplinger, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun contemporary novel that follows the story of Bianca, she finds out she is called the Duff, which is the designated ugly fat friend, and it's kind of like she's dealing with a lot of personal issues and struggles because of that, and like identity crisis type thing, and so she kind of runs away from it in the form of a boy in a not great relationship. And there's like a little mini love triangle, but it's not what you expect. And I mean, it was a fun read. It does a very good job at setting the tone for high school. Like when I read it, I was very much like, hey, I'm in high school. I remember this feeling. I remember these conversations and exactly how it is. Like it put me right back in there, even though I graduated 10 years ago. So it does a really, really, really good job at doing that, and I must applaud it for that. And I also really like the concept and how it kind of touches on this tone and this idea of labels and labeling. And I read it and I was like, dude, I was totally the Duff in high school. So, you know, I related to it. I liked it. It wasn't my favorite. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So it was good, but it wasn't like outstanding. The next book I read, I actually started reading on the day that gay marriage was legalized across the entire United States, and that is Simon versus the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. And this is a story, it's a very cute contemporary about Simon, a boy who is gay, and I'm not surprising you here, it tells you in the very beginning. He has an online relationship that's anonymous with another student from his high school that is also gay, and they don't know who each other is because it's anonymous, and they kind of start forming this relationship, and so the mystery is who is this other boy. But it's really cute. It's a really great little love story, but it's around 2 gay high school boys, and it's not like a coming of age, like, oh, it's not an identity crisis of I'm gay and no, he knows he's gay. He comes out to his family, but it's not this big like mental, like crazy, dark, deep story. It's fun, it's light, it's happy, you know, and that's sometimes exactly what you need, and I loved it, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And finally, the last book that I read this month was Veronica Mars, Mr. Kiss and Tell, the second book in the little tiny mini-series Veronica Mars books by Rob Thomas and Jennifer Graham. And this one picks up where the first book, which was the $1,000 Tan Line, left off, which left off where the movie picked up where the movie left off. Anyway, it's kind of like present day Veronica Mars. And this story deals more with a assault rape than with a murder. It's still a really good mystery. I enjoyed it. I can totally hear Veronica reading this, even though I did not listen to the audiobook because it was not narrated by Kristen Bell like the first one was. And so it's Veronica Mars. Like, the characters are really what makes this series so great, and I love it. I love Veronica now. I'm still her age. It's still like me relating to Veronica, going through similar things in our lives, except I'm not a PI, but that's okay. And her relationship with Logan is explored a little bit more. Logan. And it's really fun. I didn't really enjoy the fact, like, you kind of miss the voiceover a little bit because you go to other people's perspectives, but for the most part, it's fun, it's enjoyable, it's Veronica Mars. I don't know if there are gonna be any more yet. They were only signed for a 2-book deal, so I'm hoping that they continue on with the series because it's really fun. I love Veronica Mars. And so, yeah, I hope that there are more because this one was really great, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Well, that is it for my wrap up for the month of June. I read 9 books again. Woo, 9 books. A lot of contemporary, which is rare for me, but it's summertime and I was looking for light, easy reads, and I wanted to read a lot because this month of July, I'm doing my Harry Potter reread, so I'm only pretty much reading Harry Potter unless I happen to get through all 7 by the end of the month, which we will see. So anyway, let me know what you thought about any of these books. If you'd like a full review of any of them, let me know that as well down in the comments, and let me know what your favorite book that you read this past month was. That is it for me today. I'll see you next time.